please.
Robert Miller.
Here.
Cheers. Dina Kryler. Jan Bronze. Beth Caldwell.
Here.
Stephanie Rumminger.
Here.
Kelly Fowler.
Here.
Laura Oliver.
Here.
Michael Hankins.
Here.
Kathleen Waltz.
Here.
And Tom Couch. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I believe you have the agenda in front of you. Are there any additions to the agenda? I would like to add one, and that's just a brief update on the historical marker that's back in Lions Club Park. Can I update you on that?
Under old business.
Under new business.
Marker at Lions Club Park.
Mhm.
Looks fantastic.
If there's no other additions, entertain, or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as modified. Yep. Thanks, Beth. Second? Steph. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. You also have in front of you the minutes from the April 23rd meeting.
I move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second? Steph?
Second.
Discussion? The only thing I saw in there is I thought when we discussed the your little updated printout, or your printout that you put out for upcoming events, we had talked about posting that on Facebook, the two Facebook sites, and also on the Constant Contact. Does anybody remember that discussion?
But we can.
Yeah.
I mean, we already have, well, we're working on making sure, now I have staff, but we're making sure that we have the events actually on our Facebook pages as, you know, I mean, we could put another.
It's just a little quick thing, especially with the Constant Contact. It lets those.
Yes. That actually, I'm going to have to pay for the additional service to do the events, because there is a cost for that, but.
You can't just list a PDF?
Can send it out as a newsletter, which is something that is on my agenda now that I have staff and we get caught up.
Well, maybe we shouldn't amend the minutes then, unless we go back and look at the tape from last month's meeting, but I thought we had discussed getting that little PDF file, put it into Facebook, which can be done, and also Constant Contact.
I know I was going to put it in the newsletter.
If you speak up in Don's listing, he'll pull that up for you.
No,
Yeah.
I do remember that. I do remember having it as a part of the,
I was going to add it to the
Newsletter.
quarterly newsletter.
Well, perhaps we can talk about that under new business then. There was a motion to accept as is and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Per our normal agenda on the quarterly meetings in the evening, we've changed to put the Director of Tourism report before the citizens to be heard. So Stephanie, I'll turn it over to you.
certainly. I have a computer, or a PowerPoint presentation. I assume that we would have a projector, which, that's what I get for assuming, but all of the slides are in here, in your packet, so you also have the hard copy as well. But I would like to go, there is something very exciting to show you as a part of this presentation, but I don't want to hook up. Copy out of the way. It's here. Okay, so for the public tourism meeting for May 25th, Just some basic information, just kind of going over some of our metrics. The individual visitor count is beginning to increase as our warm weather has been, it's been nicer weather. After a very slow start in 2013, we had pretty icky weather through April. And even the beginning of May, we didn't get snow, but they got snow up north. So our year-to-date visitor over 2012, we're only down 5%. And 2012 was an exceptional year because we were warm so early. We had really good numbers in January, February, March. Now to break here at noon for group visitors, for calendar year 2013, year-to-date total visitors has increased 9% over the visitors we had in 2012. And that is mainly in large due to the student groups. Our adult groups, we are pretty even with the same time period in 2012. And our student group visitors has increased 12% over 2012. For passport sales, passports, we started selling those again on April 1st, and the sales are considerably less than 2011 and 2012. And the greatest decreases in child passports due to a reduction in the number of school field trips that purchase passports. Instead of purchasing passports, they're only going to 1 or 2 houses. It's cheaper for them that way. So it's a financial, I guess, for the kids and their families. Passports on students are only $5, but it's $2 if they just go to a couple houses. So with city tourism tax-related revenue, I do not have any details yet for the January, February, March of 2013. Those have not been provided by the Missouri Department of Revenue. They should be coming out June 1st. So that's when I will have those details. So all the numbers that I have are as of December 31st of 2012. The tourism tax-related revenue for the city of St. Genevieve is more than 10% of total general revenue collected. And fiscal year 12 reflected a 4% increase over fiscal year 11, and that includes specifically the eating and drinking places and the lodging establishments. And that is according to the funding formula by the Missouri Department of Tourism. To go into a little bit of detail, now this is where I do have some information for January, February, and March. As of March of 2013, tracking tourism-related tax revenue through a selection of downtown restaurants reflects an increase of 5.6% year-to-date over calendar year 2012. Lodging metrics, here's another one. I don't have any information past December of 2012, but we ended 2012 with a 4.9% increase over calendar year 2011.
Well, just kind of backtrack that. If you remember the downtown eating establishments, we had 8 of those in our sample. We've now reflected the data taken out, the Cafe Genevieve and the Big Field Cafe, all the way back to the original 2010, so that we're comparing apples and apples as we go forward.
Right, thank you. Because last month when I gave this report, we had a 4.9% decrease, but it was due to the 2 restaurants not having their tax revenue in there. So this is the updated.
I think it was up 2.3% year to date for downtown restaurants. I looked at that data today.
Okay.
But there was an extremely strong January, almost double what it was the previous year. February and March were down below what it was last year. I mean, it was like $4,000 in January versus about $2,500 the year before.
Right.
Couldn't figure out why we had that blip, but I think overall the downtown eateries, taking out Big Field Cap and Cafe Jenny, it's up 2.3% through the first quarter compared to last year.
Actually, for this one, we were, that's lodging, 5.6% with the new numbers that I received from Sue. I went back and rechecked. So that's where we're at now. This is really exciting. So merchant sales tax revenue in the downtown specifically, of 8 downtown stores, and this information is through March of 2013, there is a 15.5% increase year-to-date for the sales tax revenue.
Where do you get that information from?
From the Missouri Department of Revenue, gives it to Sue, and Sue sends it to me.
I mean, everybody that I've spoken to all down.
Are they
So I
down
don't know
profit,
how-
or are
I
they
don't
down
know
with
how.
sales? Because profit is completely different than the sales. And I have no way to affect, that's the business and how they determine their prices and profit. I have no control over that.
Those were the numbers reported from the state to the city for the 8 downtown businesses that we checked.
So. So then we look at the general sales tax.
One of the things that we may, I think you're supposed to report your sales monthly and pay your tax monthly. Sometimes we see these large blips that are kind of hard to explain. We don't know if somebody's delaying or delayed for a reason, because we see that in like the B&B market.
Right.
They have to have their tourism tax commission dollars in by the end of the month following the
End of
quarter.
quarter.
And some people go beyond that. And I don't know if that happens in the sales tax revenue from individual businesses too, because I mean, again, we'll see all of a sudden these big blips that don't seem to make a lot of sense.
I don't, for my business, we report our sales tax quarterly. So I'm wondering if that's why something like January
Mhm.
has that huge increase, because even though
Could
I
be.
pay it, for the fourth quarter of the calendar year of 2012, they probably don't input that information.
Businesses
until
have the
January.
option to pay quarterly as opposed to monthly?
They told us it depends on how much we're paying, I guess.
Okay.
We don't
See,
make
that
enough
could,
money
that
to
could.
pay more.
Yeah, that could-
affect it too, I
right.
guess.
But when you look at the overall, the year and how the years trend, I mean, there's a pretty solid, and that's where the general sales tax revenue overall, it kind of shows there's a, percentage of increase and decrease.
We looked at 2012 versus 2011 as a total year, which kind of takes out some of those ups and
Right.
downs, and it was about a 6.3% increase, 2012 over 2011. And we'll just have to see if some of these abnormalities, and I think if you look at some of the charts for
Well,
these, you'll see that they get really bouncy at times.
But again, that's dollars, not profit, so as we raise our prices to account for inflation, if we raised our prices 6% last year, that could be
Yeah.
part of that, right?
It could be.
Okay.
So general sales tax revenue year-to-date, this is the 8 months reporting, and this is the fiscal year. I received this report from Sue a week or two ago. So with 8 months reporting, the overall general sales tax revenue has increased 2% over fiscal year 2012. It is an increase of 5% over fiscal year 2011, and an increase of 5% over 2010. So if we go back and we look at the tourism specific related, where we have 5% plus on each of the different areas that we look at, tourism is working. It's doing what it should be, and it's actually going ahead of the overall curve. So, grocery sales may be down, and tourism is, the increase in the tourism revenue could be making up for one of the other line items that we receive sales tax for. So that's very exciting. That's very good. We have a good, strong marketing plan. The State of Missouri Department of Tourism recommends meet quite a bit to help out some of the smaller markets that are new or going into, trying to work out. Farmington is one in particular that I'm going to be meeting with this week to help them with their marketing plan and finding an identity. So I'm very excited about that. And I think that says quite a bit, that we have a really good plan going and it's strong.
Is this information something that you report to the Board of Aldermen?
Yes, I am going to give this exact same report Thursday night.
Okay.
In fact, every report I give to you guys is the exact same report I provide to the Board of Aldermen.
Okay.
Oh, no,
Sorry.
go ahead.
The last couple meetings that I've read articles in the paper for or watched on TV for the Board of Aldermen, it seems that some of them don't think that tourism is an important part of our city. So if they get information like this, I don't understand what the problem is.
I don't
If we're
either.
showing increases, I mean, if these are accurate numbers and there's an increase in sales tax revenue in restaurants and merchants, and I just don't get it. I don't know if somebody can explain it. to
I don't
me,
know, and it might be something that I can talk to, and maybe we could do a work session with them, so we can actually go through section by section, and I can point out to them, as opposed to, because they get a packet, I don't know if they read it, and I provide the information to them. But, that's something that I can suggest as a work session, especially June 1st, I'm going to be getting the packet for the fiscal year 14 budget. I would really like to sit down with them on these numbers and show them that it makes a huge difference. And when we have lost industries here in St. Genevieve, the one area that we can truly grow in is tourism and tourism-related industries, which brings jobs and generates tax revenue, and there's no cap on how much you can make.
I mean, if you can keep up the trend of an increase of 3 to 5% every year in 10 years, where does that put us? In a really good position if tourism continues to be supported
Absolutely.
and budgeted for.
Absolutely. Another thing, though, is, so I started in May of 2010. And one of the mantras that I've had all along is it takes 2 to 5 years for you to be able to look and see, looking back, how has the marketing plan worked? How has the advertising worked? How has these different campaigns worked? So now we're able to get really strong numbers, and that shows. That's, 2010, there was a drop. It was a pretty big drop, but ever since then, we have been increasing in the tourism-related industries, and that's very important for them to see and to know. But I'll suggest maybe having, but it's one thing, I'll suggest a work session with,
I don't want it to be my idea that they have to sit and have another meeting.
Well, no.
I mean, I think it's important that they really understand this.
Yes, and going into
Because tourism
the,
is beneficial to
Yes.
this community. That's why we're all here. We wouldn't be wasting our time.
right,
It's
right,
frustrating to not be able to get that across
right.
to everyone.
But I think I think it would be, and I'll say it's my idea, to have a work session with them going into the budget season.
When's your budget first pass going to be due?
I receive it June 1st. I think they want it back July 15th. And then anyone in the community who has interest in tourism or the advisory council or the tax commission, they are more than welcome to come to these, and I will give plenty of notice, as much notice as I have, to show up and show support for the tourism budget. So that, like we did last year.
But
Last year.
Yeah, and I think we need to get into it early.
And I'm
It was
trying
kinda
to
late.
I'm trying to get everything, well, I had everything in June, but that one, we were down to the vote,
Yeah.
and we had aldermen who threw red flags, and they really kind of,
Joe Roger came to talk.
yes, yeah, and Joe Rozier came in, I called him and said, thank you so much for that, that was fantastic. But, so if we get into these work sessions as we go through the planning part of the budget and show the support, I think maybe that'll also make a difference for them.
Beth, I just wanted to make a comment on your comment, and that is, I think the undefinable piece of the coin is how many people eat lunch at your restaurant every day that work at the hospital, that work at Sylvanus, that live in town, that came for a meeting. There's not a way that I know of for me to break out my sales tax or you to break out your sales tax as to that number is volume. It's not tourism specific, because I certainly depend on local people for my business.
Oh, yeah.
And I know all of us at the table do. So I think the answer to your question is there's just no way to know.
But we know as merchants and owners who comes into the store.
Yes, but
We know how many are local and how many are tourists.
are we reporting that?
Can you break it down? Can you break your sales down according to that? I mean, I know you know who walks in your door, but I mean, unless you track financially.
What you can do is do sampling.
Or
I mean,
zip
it's-
code.
Well, either by zip code or just one day a week, you measure it. You don't have to do it every day. That's why we didn't choose every restaurant in the city. We only did.
Inconsistent, though. I mean, the days are so inconsistent.
Right.
Yeah, well, and.
Yeah.
Some
just-
Mondays I have
Sampling.
20% locals and 80% tourists, and some Mondays
So
it's
pick
the other way around.
Pick Saturday or whatever. I mean, it's.
Well, then if you pick one day
Yeah.
and you do it over a period of time, that will help out with that fluctuation between locals and.
Guarantee Saturday's gonna be.
I mean, I worked in
tourists.
industries, we made 15 million parts a day. You can't test every one of them.
Yeah.
So you have to sample, and that's what statistics is all about. And you look at it over time with trends and that sort of thing.
So, moving into, kind of going into the budget marketing strategy, there is a huge shift going on, and I'm very excited about this, actually. I've had discussions with the state level. They've been doing presentations on this. Hoffman Lewis, who is the public relations firm for the state of Missouri. I've also heard this through a few other states and how they're starting to look at their medias. Instead of having it strictly radio, television, advertising, and then the redheaded stepchild of social media, they're combining it into a different, there's paid, which that would be anything that we've purchased. So radio ads, television ads, online ads, that's paid media. Owned media is our website, our visitor's guide, anything that we have set up, we pay for, it's owned. Earned media is any type of editorial or PR pickup that we receive in addition to the paid advertising. And then the social media obviously is Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest. And the idea is when all of these combine, in the center here, that's called converged media. And that's your goal. You want to make sure that all of the different medias that you're working on ultimately go back and tie to each other. For example, any editorial, we want to make sure that the last thing people read, that last paragraph has our website and our phone number for contact information. The social media, here's one example that we've really been working on Pinterest with, is you can make sure that when someone clicks on your photos, it links them to your website. So there's a way of tying it back to your owned media. The owned media, once again, tying in with making sure that anything you have on your paid media for events or the passport, people can click on that and it ties back together with any information. Or if there's editorial that's coming out, they can visit the website and see information related to the editorial.
Did you say this is a new marketing trend, or this is what the state's new agency is?
Oh, no. This is a new marketing strategy trend. And the idea is, ultimately what I see it is social media is huge. It is definitely the way it's going. And it's not necessarily a free media. And if you are a business and you spend any time, you're spending labor dollars to invest on there. And then they're also changing it a bit where only so many people can see your post, but you can pay to have it boosted and more people see your post. So it's moving in a direction for the businesses of, it's quickly going to slide into that paid. It is, but not directly at this point. It's through labor. But the idea is to have everything combined and everything going back in the branding. And so I have heard it more than just Hoffman Lewis. I've heard several different marketing firms in several different states as well working on this. So what have we got going on? We have paid media. I put examples on here of what we currently have. I have the originals if anyone would like to see them. after the meeting. So anyway, these are some ads.
Could you just send the PowerPoint presentation out,
Oh, absolutely.
please?
Yes. So anyway, all right, so this is 2 ads that we have with AAA, which those are cooperative marketing ads. I wanted to scan the entire page so you could see our ad in comparison to the other ads. Do they pop? What are some of the differences? What are some things that, maybe we might want to look at, not having as much copy and doing more photos? And then we have this one on the bottom, and this was in the Webster Kirkwood Times. And in addition to this ad, I also got them to pick up a story. So we had some early ones, and I'll have that here later too. Paid media.
Sorry, can we go back a second?
Sure.
So we have a paid graphic designer for these ads, right?
Yes.
Does she see what we're seeing right now?
Yes.
Okay, because like in this one on the right, for example, when I look at that page, the first thing I didn't see was St. Genevieve.
No, I know.
saw a foot and I saw the yellow versus black. So maybe,
Well, and that's one of the things that we need to, so we have all this copy. People do not read. And that's why you'll see a lot of the other ads, they don't have many words, they have photos. And so, that's something that, we might want to look at. And then maybe having some color and, still making sure that we stay with the French colonial theme, but working in it a way so that it pops more.
You never know exactly where your ad's going to be placed.
Right.
but on
And
the
that's
bottom left, it goes better with the page. So it's just like luck of the draw as to what else ends up on the page that your ad is on, right?
That and it's the size of ads that are available. For the one here at the bottom left, they gave us a quarter page, extremely reasonable, or not a quarter page. And I asked, can I get it all the way across horizontal? Because I had done that in Feast magazine for several months, and it looked fantastic. It was very eye-catching. And they were like, yeah, we can do that. But
The one on the right, ours gets
The one on the
lost,
right,
but
yeah,
The other
it-
one, it fits.
I think
in
we
better.
do too, at
Yeah.
the top here, because there's so much color
Yeah.
around it.
right.
Yeah.
So it gets lost, and then
And they're just all too wordy,
It's-
if I can
it-
interject, just way too wordy.
I agree, and that was my point, is I would like to take out all of that copy. While it touches everything,
Nobody's going to read it.
They don't read, yeah. So, very good, okay. But yes, I try to get as best size where we can pop, I would like to,
Because that down the side thing, I think, could be a great, as you're
Yes.
flipping the page, it's the first thing you see because you're unfolding the page this way. But
Correct.
unfortunately, we don't have the color that the other ones have, so they're going to scan right over it and look at the other ads.
right. I've always gone with these color schemes because it kind of seemed to be prior what everybody wanted to do, and they were really insistent on keeping the copy, which is why I'm bringing it up, and why I wanted to show you in this format, so you could see, hey, it's getting lost, and what can we do to make it pop? And I definitely think there's more that we can do with color, photos, to spark that interest.
Because we
Wait
all...
a minute, I don't think we've looked at an ad before it was published in the last year as this group. Was it the prior group that?
I said the prior group.
Okay,
And then also, I would not recommend that the group looks at every ad before I publish it. That is impossible to do. I've already finished fiscal year 13. It's so far in advance. And
it's not, I think it's more about approach, a discussion about approach on the ads, not
Okay.
each specific one.
okay, no, and that's why I'm bringing it up, is this is what I'm wanting to show.
So now, when you start working on 14, since we're talking about this now, do we have time to get some proofs as an example of something that may go into 14s?
We can, starting with quarter 2. Quarter 1 has already gone out for fiscal year 14 for printing. But, there's other ads that we can look at. Now, the ads, when I submitted the fiscal year 14 co-op request, in that packet that I gave you had sample ads of what, we were kind of focusing toward.
I think the problem with that is we never saw that before it it was already sent in before we as a group even saw that document for 2014. I think that's one thing that we'd like to get involved with the early parts of that, more, not an approval of each ad, but philosophies and
I'm not
approach.
even so sure, not on that personally, but I definitely agree we need to be much more involved.
Okay. No, and I am fine with that.
Well, it sounds like we're all in agreement with what we're wanting.
Right,
Do you have the same graphic artist design all the ads?
yes. For the most part, occasionally, if I'm in a pinch, I will have the artist at the publication put it up for me, and I'll give them a sample ad that they can work with. But,
And that's
We've been-
generally free, isn't it?
yes. Yes.
We've been doing the same kind of style ad for a while now, right?
Since before I came along.
I think something needs to change.
I was just thinking, is she
Kim.
is she capable of jazzing it? I mean, it seems like they are all pretty similar and have been for the same, for a
I think
while.
she is capable of, there's just been a lot of talk of making sure that we, push the French colonial and we stay with this kind of a sophisticated theme. I really think we need to pop it up. So that,
I mean, that's evident, like Beth pointed out, when you look at the page.
yes. So definitely, I do think she's capable, because I've seen some of her other work. It's just trying to stay within a certain look that's been preferred.
I think there's
Who
balance.
prefers
There's balance there.
that look?
I would have said the former advisory council.
Keyword there, former.
Yes, which is why I'm bringing this up, and I'm kind of trying to point it
Yeah.
out.
I think something has to be changed because it does not, I mean, I know what I'm looking for and it doesn't catch my eye. I had to really look
Yes,
to see these.
yes. And then it could also be, even if we do change it up and we try to do everything that we can, they decide placement. So, I mean, we could wind up being put next to something and still get
Yeah,
lost.
I understand
because-
that.
Yeah.
But-
But no, we do need to do something. I absolutely agree.
Do we pay, I'm sorry, Beth,
No, go ahead.
Do we pay this graphic artist by the word, it would appear, or do we pay by the ad, or is it a long-term contract, or what's the deal?
We pay by the ad, and it's very, very reasonable.
But if a lot of times you can get free, wouldn't we be better off to go with letting the ad director at a publication help with free design kind of a thing?
I would have to send out all of the information every time I need an ad created, where Kim already has the logo, a series of photos. I mean, she has the majority of what would comprise of,
Why don't
of
you,
the ad.
I think if you direct her
Yes,
to tell you want this kind of look, that's what the designers put.
She will take
I think
direction.
it's important that you give her the direction she needs based on this kind of discussion.
Right.
On
And
one
she
hand,
will.
sorry.
No, she will take
Okay.
direction.
Well, I can see on one hand, your point of it's a free service, it's their magazine, maybe they know what they should do, but on the other hand, as somebody that's providing a free service, as invested in it as someone who's getting paid for it, and will they take, if we say we want this, this, and this,
And we're
Can
running
we
that
get that?
consistency
You never
on
know.
branding.
Sometimes on staff, I mean, I've done it, sometimes on those graphic artists on staff, you get a great one and they do a
Yeah.
great job.
Yep.
And sometimes
It's
they throw your
awful.
logo up there and that's about it. I mean, you just
Yeah.
never know what you're gonna get, so.
Yeah.
um,
And Kim does a fantastic job. I mean, she does, and she will take, I mean, she is open to anything, as far as, what to go on any ad.
Real quick question, only because time to work on quarter 2 of 14 was asked. What kind of time frame do you
I would
have to start
probably-
looking at that?
I would probably bring that in next month meeting.
Carla, could you please repeat what your question was? I heard Steph's answer, but I didn't hear your question.
I was just wondering what kind of, she said there was still time to be able to get in quarter 2 for 14. So I was just looking, what kind of time are we talking? Are we talking a month, 3 months, 6 months? And so she's saying that she's going to bring in things next month to the next meeting.
And in the interim, I will talk to Kim and have her come up with some suggestions that we can look at and say, we like this direction or we don't like this direction.
And if she has designed for us these semi-insipid ads for all of next year. Why is it we can't change that copy? Not the inch size, not the position in the publication? but-
Anything that hasn't been sent in yet, it can change. Anything that we've already sent because of a deadline, a publishing deadline, we can't change.
And you've already sent all of 2013 someplace?
All of the cooperative marketing for fiscal year 13 and the first quarter of fiscal year 14. That's how far in advance.
Could we have,
Advertisers
I
and
hate to
publications.
overburden here, but is there like a list? These you're stuck with and these we can jazz up and liven up and spark up?
Oh, absolutely.
So we'd have an
Still
idea
some
of what
this
we
year we
could...
can change.
Yes. Yes. Up to this point, I mean, really, it's the cooperative that's so far ahead as far as what's set and what, in the deadlines. Because those are major magazines, major publications.
I mean, at this point, a picture of Martin Toma might be better with Visit St. Genevieve on it.
So, but I'll do that.
Okay.
I'll talk to Kim, we'll come up with some ideas, and I'll have examples, and then, we can discuss and see what.
'Cause
We still need the right branding. I mean,
Yes.
the word party is not going to be something that we want to put in our ads.
No.
Something cartoony is not going to fit, but
Right. And
something.
actually, cartoony, I would stay away from because there are 3 other CVBs or tourism that have gone that cartoony route, and I don't want to try to compete with that.
Well, I don't think that's St. Genevieve.
And, well, and then
Anyway.
there's that too.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next paid media example I have is online media. This is Destination Spotlight. This is on AAA websites for Home and Away, Journeys, Midwest Traveler, and Southern Traveler. And so it has this really nice article. It's pretty much the same. This is the example of what's on Home and Away. It has links to our website, phone number, and it's a nice way to get some online SEO, since we have that link back to our website. I mean, these are all things, and this kind of goes back to when you have online media, you want to make sure it tracks back to your website, and that kind of helps with the background, the search engine marketing optimization, search engine optimization and search engine marketing. So this is one way there's a convergence of the paid media with the owned media of our website. Paid media radio. With the $10,000 grant from the Community Development Fund Economic Development Grant and a $2,000 donation from the Jour de Fête Committee, I have contracted $12,000 in advertising with NPR stations. $7,000 has been invested in a sponsorship for the St. Louis NPR. Cape Girardeau, which also it's Cape Girardeau and Farmington, there is a $2,500 sponsorship. And the Carbondale, Illinois NPR station is a $2,500 sponsorship. The ads began May 1st, and they will run through October 31st. I wanted to make sure that we would have that first month in October, something out there. Yes.
I heard when, I'm a big fan of the NPR commercials, and I heard on May 13th, we got the announcer with the good voice, the one, well, I like his voice. I think he's very dramatic and inflective. The only thing I was hoping we might be able to juggle around a little bit was, it ran at 9:18. Except for me, who's in their car at 9:18? And in radio, I think drive time is really the key times. Is it so much more expensive we couldn't juggle these around?
They
and
are
take?
juggled around. There's not
Okay, so
all
we're
in
getting
the morning,
some day
and they're
drive
not-
time.
Yes, they're interspersed throughout the day, but especially with the St. Louis NPR. If you want to go with the high, those high times, it throws the rate per, the cost per 15-second ad through the roof.
But if you're reaching many more people, isn't it not more expensive if you reach more people
Not if we have to
than if you
reduce the
have more
number.
ads?
Well, no, not if we have to reduce the number. The biggest thing is, all right, so here's an example. When it first was $5,000 for St. Louis, before I received the $2,000,
Judy Fett.
thank you, from the Jour de Fête. So for $5,000 in St. Louis, that was 90 commercials.
Wow.
Cape Girardeau and Carbondale, for $2,500, I'm getting 300 commercials. So, and, you know, just to kind of give you the idea of how much difference there is.
But you have a breakdown of what's going to run when?
Yes.
Could you share that with us so we can kind of listen to what the commercials are?
Well, they send an audit after the fact that they've been run. They don't do it beforehand. It's sent as an audit, and they send it after the fact. And I can send that out.
I'd just like to know what the content of these are.
It was very spare.
That's 15 seconds.
Yeah, but we had the good guy, the good voice guy, and it was pretty much not more than do something different, visit historic St. Genevieve, it's really beautiful, come on down. I mean, it was like,
At NPR, you're not allowed to be,
It can't be
Am I right?
flashy.
Right,
Yeah.
no, you can't. I mean, they're very strict, because it's a sponsorship. This is not
Right.
advertising. It's
But-
sponsorship.
I think I heard from down at Cape, you can buy a one-day's, like all the advertising for a day for like $120, where you can, yeah, you might want to talk to Sandra Cabot. I think that's where she passed that on to me. It was,
Well, I'll follow up with the,
yeah,
the
it was something
agent.
like a special rate that you could get one day's.
okay.
Like a
I
bang
will,
for your buck,
I'll
and,
follow up with the agent.
How are we going to determine that this is of value or not? I mean, we're going to spend $12,000 or whatever. I mean, we talked about it in print advertising, and we looked at it in Facebook. How are we going to determine if this is a good bang for our buck?
It goes back to word of mouth and people letting us know and visitor profile surveys. I mean, there really is no way, just like with the billboards, there is no way to know how many people that brings in and the bang for the buck on that. With the NPR, their demographic, their listenership is very close to what our listenership is, both with household income and age demographics and education. We're at least focusing in on who our actual demographic is, as opposed to anybody who happens to be going by, whether they have money or not. I mean, it's, you know, it's much more targeted than something along those lines. But I mean, unless they come in and say, we heard you on the radio, and I know that the only paid radio advertising I have at the moment is through NPR, or if they're coming from St. Louis and they heard about it on the radio, I know that's NPR. If I have ads with Don, you know, that would kind of skew with Cape Girardeau, because that hits Chester, Perryville, Farmington, St. John. So it would be a little bit harder to track, but it kind of goes back to the targeting that cultural, age demographic, financial, education, and hopefully they let us know that they heard about us on the radio.
would I be right to say, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to keep yammering here, would I be right to say that if we're getting 90 spots for $7,000, that comes out to like $77 for each 15-second spot, or $300 a minute?
That could be. I'd have to actually look at the contract, because the $5,000 was the 90 spot. Now, I just did a new contract for the $2,000 additional that I increased. I would have to go back and look at that contract. I don't know off the top of my head how many additional spots. But they focus it in on the different drive times. You know, they try to get a good sampling across. And that provides an average cost per spot, as opposed to really cheap spots and then really expensive spots. Some of the drive time spots can be well over 130, 150. And to get too many of those, I mean, it would really cut back on the number of spots that we could have.
Yes, but if you reach more people with those spots, it could be better than reaching fewer people and spending the same amount of money.
I'll have to look and see when they.
I think what she's saying, though, is that St. Louis market is a 3 million market. Cape Girardeau, if you take in all the places, because I've bought these before myself, and you can tell them what you want, And in some cases, they'll give you a general idea of where you'll be, but you don't know until after they give you an audit. But the thing about it is, you take a 3 million market as opposed to, let's say, Carbondale, okay? That at the best possible would be maybe a 250,000 market. So you take 250,000 and divide that into 3 million, and you see what you're getting. So when you get one advertisement, no matter where it is in the St. Louis market, you're reaching more people,
I agree.
no matter what time it is. But you're going to get the same, you're still going to get the same schematic that you would get from the St. Louis market in the Carbondale market, because they're not going to give you all drive times. They're going to give you a cross-section, and that's the same thing that they'll sell you in the St. Louis market. I bought them for years when we had just the CBC and the French Colonial, and then even when we went into the tax commission. And you can ask for those markets, but when you do, you're going to pay more for it. But paying more for one in, let's say, Cape or Carbondale is not going to give you what a lesser one within St. Louis market.
And I have the copy, and I can email the copy for each of the radio stations that, I will be able to email it out. In fact, I'll make a note to do that.
I know in your visitor sign-in thing, it asked where they heard about us. Do the people at the desk do any surveys and write down, ask the people that how do you hear about us, and record that data?
We talk to them. We try to find it out. But
Is it
most
recorded?
people-
I mean, did they write it down that I had this many people say I saw it on the billboard or
Depending
what?
upon the staff person, but I haven't had anyone comment on the billboard. Some people say, I heard about it through a friend, I read it in a magazine, I don't remember which one. And once the radio spots, when I've done the radio spots with NPR before, we've had people say, I heard about it on NPR. I listened to whatever show.
Apropos to this discussion, I have had people come in, say, I've been wanting to come here for years, and I saw that billboard, and we
Good.
finally came off the highway.
Good.
I just wonder if we had some sort of survey card or something in the B&Bs and even in the Welcome Center, people would fill them out.
That won't do you any good at a
B&Bs
B&B, because 95% of all of our reservations are way in advance. It's not off the highway. At the Microtel,
Well, we could still find
Yeah.
out how they heard about it, though.
no,
Maybe
at the
how they-
Microtel, yes. But everyone that books with me, we ask them, every one of them, how did you hear about us? A friend, a website, a magazine. Now, if you say to them, and I spend a tremendous amount of money on the web, and if you try to press them, they can't remember where on the web they saw you. They can say, well, I saw your website. How did you find my website? They can't remember.
No.
But the thing about it is that you're spending money across the board to try and get people to come to the town. And a person that's driving down the highway, yes, they're going to pull into the Microtel. It's not going to come to the B&Bs, we're not going to get any of them. But still, even if that person went back home and told everybody, yeah, it's a great little town. Now their friend told them, well, how did your friend hear about it? They saw it on the highway. But you're never going to get that piece of information. But she is, if she asks somebody that are the historic houses. The people in a restaurant don't have time to ask that.
Yeah.
They just don't have time to ask that question.
I have a visitor profile survey that I need to just disperse. We need to, start working on that. The B&Bs have been very clear that they do not want that survey at their establishments. One good reason being that you may have a couple there
Well,
who
they
are
would put their
married,
names,
but they're
yeah.
not married to each other.
Yeah.
And then another was, they feel like it's offensive to provide that to their guests. But if we get it in the stores, if we get it in the restaurants, and I'll have it out at the wineries, that at least will start bringing in data that we can then approach maybe Park College to have them, determine, with the results of that data. And that was one thing that was made very clear through the Tour and Travel Research and through Dan McKinney, who is the state of Missouri. Excuse me.
One of the things that we did in the past, and not many of the bed and breakfasts want to be involved in, is we can give you zip codes.
Zip
It's
code
nothing to
is
do with-
another important way.
It has nothing to do with who they are.
Right.
But I will tell you, well, I came back on the 27th, and since the 27th, we've had 2 couples from Amsterdam. Now, tell me how they found us. And this last week, I had a couple from England. How did they find me?
But it's still, it's not gonna, we're not gonna spend oodles of advertising dollars to try to get more people from Amsterdam or England.
No.
It's the discussion, really, where are we gonna get the bang for our buck? And we're gonna have to figure that out, or we're just gonna keep throwing money at the wall and see.
And I can tell you that we get them from the Illinois side. We
I've
get them
looked at
from the
your
Missouri
zip
side,
codes you
and almost
provided.
every zip code, I would have thought, okay, Webster Groves and Kirkwood, wrong. I get more from St. Charles County, which is, St. Charles, O'Fallon, St. Peters, Wentzville, than I do from the city of St. Louis. But I get a lot of them from the city of St. Louis, but not the communities like Shrewsbury or Webster Groves or Kirkwood. I do, but not like you thought you would get.
You will never have a specific, this ad, this marketing, the theory is there's a 5 of 7 rule. Person needs to hear about your destination, your product, 5 to 7 times before they can start associating or even remembering it. And you want to get that across as many, you want to try to get that across as many types of media as you can. So you want the print, you want radio, you want online. That is what brings the brand awareness. That is what brings the product awareness. That's basic marketing 101. But you will never, ever be able to say, I place this ad.
Then why
and
does the
this-
state require us to do a conversion study? If
Because
it
you want to
isn't,
know how many you're getting from outside the state.
it's really directed at what is working too, which ads,
It
where they're
is.
here. Well,
But-
we're gonna be a lot longer tonight.
Right. They
Let's-
want, they
And I
want,
apologize.
No,
I know I
it's a
belabored.
discussion that we've had more than once here, and I know we're never gonna get to be exact, but we still should be sampling people to try to get an idea of what is working and what isn't. I know it's never gonna be 100%, but
but I mean, it still comes back to, they read it in a magazine, they talked to somebody, they heard it. I mean, we won't be able to say that this particular ad we had in this particular AAA magazine.
this is the first time we've done this NPR at a
It's-
very significant rate. I mean, $10,000 or $12,000 out of our total budget is a significant amount.
It wasn't out of our budget, that was additional.
It's out of the monies that the citizens of St. Genevieve and,
Is that
they're-
who funds the Community Development
I
Foundation?
know where it's from, but it's still money that's being spent here that, we look at everything in total. We look at what you get from the county, what you get from the city. All of these, what from the state, where are we spending our dollars and what's the return?
Okay, I would say this. Year-to-date, overall general revenue, sales tax revenue is 2% increase over last year. Our downtown merchants have a 15% increase. Our downtown restaurants have nearly a 6% increase. Our lodging establishments for fiscal year 12 over fiscal year 11 was 5%. That is where you're going to find how things are working out, is using and following the Missouri Department of Tourism's tourism
Codes, zip
formula
codes.
that has been identified as a national model as the best way to track tourism and how well it's, and the health of tourism and how it's going on. So to say that, okay, we've had a 2% increase overall, well, we've had huge increase in our tourism-related, that's making up for something. Otherwise, we would have a 15+% increase in the general sales tax revenue, and we don't. So overall, we have this little one, but with tourism, it's way here. It's working.
I think you're missing the point here.
I'm not missing the point.
The point is.
I want to make sure that
Okay.
I'm not missing the point. I'm wanting to make sure that that gets related back. How do you measure how things are going? And we have a survey. It will go out to the wineries, to the merchants, to the restaurants to hand out. Hopefully, people will fill them out. Most people don't. looking at the tax revenue, looking at the hits to our website, looking at that is what you can really look to see. How is it working?
What we really need is 10%, 20% growth is what we need. And
That's not realistic.
over time, we need to, it's like somebody told me that one day our goal ought to be 500 visitors a day. But we got to work to that, and we got to spend our money judiciously. And the only thing I was trying to bring it up is when you have a variety of media, you got to determine where's your biggest bang for your buck. And I guess we'll just table this. Let's move on.
Well, that goes back to the 5 to 7 rule. And any marketing professional, any marketing company is not going to tell you to put all your eggs in one basket. Only do print, only do radio, only do internet. They say, well, now that we have social media, sort of, you break it out evenly across that space so that you can hit as many people as you possibly can. Because some people will only go to the website, other people will only make phone calls. Some people will only listen to the radio, they don't read magazines. So it's not a matter of, we'll put it all in a magazine and that's going to be the answer to our question. It's you have to make sure you hit across a variety of media types to make sure that you're getting the best that you can. 500 people a day, we don't have the infrastructure to manage 500 people a day.
It'd be a terrible problem to have.
It would be a terrible problem to have, and it could be a serious problem, because if you get negative commentary, oh, that place is awful, don't go there, that will hurt, because, word of mouth is very important.
Let's move on.
So, going on, so our own media, that's our website, and the Visitor's Guide is an example of the own media. Both of the Visitor's Guide provides information going back to our website. Website has all of the information on things that are going on, things to see, places, to shop and eat. Earned media is any pickup by press releases or travel writers or media that you have built through relationships, regional relationships. That's pretty important. This was an article that was in the Webster Kirkwood Times. It was very well done. It talks about Crystal City and Kimmswick, but on the St. Genevieve it was really nice because I basically told them what I wanted it to say. They put it together, they sent it to me, and I approved it. So that's something that you normally don't get with editorial. Next one we have here, this was in the May-June AAA Southern Traveler, and it's Unexpected Treasure. It talks about the region, has a great photo here of the Felix Valley. And this is another one that I've worked on with AAA to put together. Before I get started, spoke about regional partnerships. I have been working with Randolph County and with the Kaskaskia River Project, or the Corps of Engineers, on a driving route. During all of our conversations and our meetings, it came out that Randolph County was going to be purchasing some advertising on Charter Media. And I had made the suggestion, hey, wouldn't it be a really good idea? It would really be nice if we had one of your commercials about the Confluence Heritage Area, which is the driving route that we have. It takes in both sides of the French region, Missouri and Illinois. And, they talked about it. They went to their tourism bureau, and they decided that was a really good idea. So a week ago, Monday, we had a film crew in town, did some filming, and this is the particular ad that is going to be playing in the St. Louis market on Charter television and digital online. And it's actually really nice. They say quite a bit about St. Genevieve. And it didn't cost us a penny. So I was able to negotiate through regional partnerships, advertising in St. Louis markets on television, that it actually talks about St. Genevieve and has some really nice photos.
Do you have it on your computer?
I do, actually. I was going to...
Where the Kaskaskia and Mississippi Mississippi rivers come together, you'll find the Confluence Heritage Area in St. Genevieve and Perry counties in Missouri and Randolph County in Illinois. This area is rich with history, natural beauty that can easily be viewed on one of our motor trails. Take your pick from the Rue de Vin in St. Gen, the Confluence Heritage Trail at the Kaskaskia Lock and Dam, and the forts of Prairie du Rocheur and Kaskaskia. Take a weekend drive on one of the trails and view some of the most beautiful scenery around. We assure you it's a weekend you'll never forget.
That didn't cost us a dime.
All right.
Now let's talk about St. John and let's talk about all the money.
Well, they're the ones paying for it. You know, I mean, it talks about that auto route, which is both sides. It's from Chester to St. Genevieve and utilizes the ferry, utilizes the Chester Bridge. Considering that we didn't put a dime toward production and we're not paying a dime toward, the first run is going to go for 4 weeks, and then they may continue to run it throughout the summer and fall, you know. But considering that we didn't put a dime toward it, it talks a lot about St. Genevieve.
So this will go to charter, sorry, I don't have TV, so this will go to charter customers?
It will
In
be
what area?
all of St. Louis.
All of St. Louis?
All
area?
of St. Louis.
Any specific channel?
I think they were looking at the History Channel, I think A&E, and I think there were 2 others that I don't remember off the top of my head.
So they get to choose channels?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they get to choose channels. But that was very exciting that I was able to get them to do this for free. I mean, it was, you know, can't beat that. And so this kind of goes back to, you know, regional partnerships are really important. Working with them, working with some other counties. I think, you know, we could work with Farmington a bit. They have a lot of money coming in as a result of their bed tax. If there's something that we can do to, you know, partner with them so that we can get some, you know, free exposure, basically. I think it's something we absolutely should pursue because it would be something that we didn't have before. You know, and there's, you know, what does, you know, that's one of the things looking at their identity. You know, they're very different from St. Genevieve. It's just 30 minutes away, so if they have someone staying over, we could easily get a day trip from someone who wouldn't normally have taken the day trip. They would have stayed in Farmington and done Farmington things. Our social media, as I had mentioned, I have hired someone. She started, Megan Hook. She started on, I believe, April 15th. And we've really been diving into the Facebook and the Pinterest. We do have Twitter. I need to get on that one a little bit more. But we have been working hard to make sure that it goes into this integrated medias where we're having it as a part of our overall theme so that we have that convergence as opposed to just treating it like it's just this redheaded stepchild that we have in the back that we just beat on occasion.
Did you know you can link the Twitter to the Facebook so that when you make a post on Facebook, it automatically posts to Twitter?
Yes, and I have been told and I have heard, and there are studies, people who are Facebook users, a good portion of them, when you have all those hashtags, that bugs them. They don't like that. So it is actually recommended that you don't attach those two. So when you have those hashtags, your Twitter followers who understand it, get it, and it doesn't aggravate your Facebook followers because they're really 2 different people. You can use the hashtags on the Pinterest and get away with that. And they absolutely recommend that. You know, there are certain words in your description that you want to have on Pinterest. You want to include your city's name. You want to include Missouri. You know, and you want to make sure that all of your photos, it's not just that number that your camera automatically assigns. You want to actually go in and name that photo. Bolduc House Gardens, or, you know, Jacques Board House. You want to make sure that you have that because that's all of that comes back and ties to your website, and it works with the search engine optimization and the search engine marketing. So anything that you can do to help improve that without having to actually pay a company to do your search engine marketing and your search engine optimization, which is not cheap, you know, it's like an added bonus.
I will say that we've seen an increase in the postings on Facebook the last couple of months. The only thing, just to comment, we seem to have this preoccupation with the weather. And when we have something like the Civil War camp, it was, oh, it's going to be a great weekend.
And it wound up not being.
Well, but we didn't say anything about the event, or very little, and
Well, we had an event posting for that. and
I'm
it
just saying
was
is,
counted.
if you could look at the content, the weather's an important part, but let's try to sell the events a little bit more.
Sure.
Just a suggestion.
Okay. So then it comes back with the media's, to our main call to action, which is to visit our website. And here's another way to show that our advertising and what we're promoting is working. Since going live in July of 2010, visits to visitstgen.com have increased 90.9% in 2012 over 2011. And this trend is continuing to increase significantly heading through our year-to-date 2013. We're up 107% over 2012. So this is another way that we can measure the advertising that we're doing. Is it working? Absolutely. So we're looking at the numbers and it's showing. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you for putting the data together. Any comments from the citizens?
I can...
Could you please come up and identify yourself?
I'm Paul Perdue. I'm not a natural-born St. Genevieve. I'm a temporary resident. But I spent a lot of time in Farmington, and I like St. Genevieve, and I'm currently living here right now. And I wasn't here for the flood of '93. I was serving in the Army up in Alaska, but I grew up on a river town, Granite City, Illinois, too. So we paid a lot of attention as much as we could. And when I moved here, my friends talked to me a bit about the flood and what happened, and basically talking about how they were working full-time jobs and they would drag themselves home from work, go to the sandbag line, fill sandbags till 9 or 10 o'clock at night, go home, collapse into bed, and I was kind of impressed. I was also in the National Guard in the Farmington unit, and the 1140th was over here fighting in '93 to save the town too. And the totality of that story, of the fight you guys had back in '93 that you won, I was always very impressed by that. I thought it was really a kind of a remarkable thing that you guys pulled off. And I was struck by the fact that there was no kind of memorial, or there's nothing around town to kind of signify that what you guys did back then. And then one evening, my friends and I were walking down Main Street, down near the creek where the flood marker is, and I happened to glance over across the street into that little grass field, and there's a big gravel mound over there, and I said to my friend, "What is that mound?" And he said, "It's the last piece of the '93 flood wall that we built back in '93. And I said,
Holy cow.
You're kidding. And he said, "No, and it belongs to Bernie Bowman." And that just sparked my interest, and I thought, well, why don't we find out who this little grass area belongs to right here? And if that mound of dirt, or that mound of gravel belongs to Bernie Bowman, why couldn't they put up a little park? I mean, it could be done so easily and almost no expense, or very little expense. And so I went and talked to Beth about it a little bit, and she thought it was a reasonably good idea, something at least worth exploring and maybe talking to the city about. If the city would be willing. I think if you talk to Bernie Bowman, I mean, my vision of what would be down there would be they would fix up the little park, the little grass area, make a little walking path through. Whoever it would be, Bernie or city workers, parks workers, whoever, clean up that mound, get all the underbrush and stuff off of it so that mound is visible. Maybe make a little kind of a sandbag display to symbolize the sandbags that most of you here probably had blisters on your hands from filling back then. And then even the possibility of like a display board of some sort with photos from back then, because a lot of folks have photos, including my friends. And it's all for the idea of tourism. I mean, what do tourists want? Tourists want stuff to look at. It's pretty simple. That's what tourists want. They want things to do. And if there was a nice little park down there, And I think if it's probably going to be too late to do it in time for the 20th anniversary, because that's really what kind of also initially sparked my first interest, was that the 20th anniversary of this thing was coming up. It may be too late for that, but I think if something like that was possible to do, you could even probably get a little free media. If such a park was actually built and put into existence, you could probably get a little free media. And it helps bring tourists, it helps bring foot traffic. St. Genevieve, anything you can get that increases foot traffic. I think it's doable. I think if you went to Bernie Bowman and said, some of you folks here may know Bernie personally. I've met Bernie several times when I was a labor organizer, and I had some unsuccessful conversations with him, but friendly unsuccessful conversations. But Bernie's a citizen. He's never done anything with that gravel pile. My understanding was the reason he kept that one piece was because he wanted to use it as a gravel stockpile, and he never had need of it, so there it sits. Bernie would probably donate it. Or I'm sure something could be worked out with Vern. So that was my kind of thing to see if the tourism folks thought it was something that was worth approaching the city about, and seeing if it was something the city might be interested in pursuing.
It's a very good idea. And as in all of these things, we need champions to make them happen. Champions on the Board of Aldermen, champions within the community. And from past experience, you have to get a coalition of people to make these happen, but they can. And the park board has to be involved in that. But it was one of the times when this community came together, big time.
Well, one of the things that a couple of different people said to me in kind of, not opposition, but kind of almost opposite, is they said, well, one of the problems you're going to have is a lot of people from back then have a bad taste in their mouth about it, and they don't want to remember it. And I was struck by that, because I couldn't imagine why. The only thing Mike could tell me, my friend that lives here, said was, well, for us it's because we kind of lost the fight. Because one end of the levee failed and part of the town flooded. And I said, so what? You saved the downtown part. I mean, I don't know. Do any of you folks, why would anybody be less than proud of what you all did back then? I can't imagine.
I don't know if they don't want to remember the effort and the sense of community, but maybe somebody who lost their home and lost everything, they don't want to remember that. So that might be
Yeah, I'm sure
part of
that's
that.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
for the folks whose houses did go under, I'm sure that for them, but for, that's a percentage of folks, but for the rest of the folks,
Oh, I think the majority, it was a success story for the town, there's no
it was
doubt
an
about it. So,
amazing success
yeah.
story. You guys took on the river.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 6,000 miles away in Alaska following this on the news. Like, look at them go, go St. Genevieve. And my town too. My town was Granite City. Well, we already had our 500-year levee, which came very near to failing, but it didn't. You guys had to build the levee. I mean, it was remarkable. And when I got out of the Army and I reported to my unit there in Farmington at the 1140th, they were still very proud of what they had done over here. I mean, they were very proud. And I think if you had some kind of a board like that, and like an incentive for Bernie Bowman is, well, it's free advertising, because obviously as one of the lead contractors who built this levee and helped us win this fight, your name would be prominently displayed,
Why don't we have a discussion afterwards? Maybe we can talk about some people that you could talk to for a coalition to
Sure.
pursue this. Beth?
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Any other things? Let's move on to old business. Signage update. As of last Tuesday, I believe, the signs are in place.
Oh, great.
Nice.
I like them.
Yeah.
You
I
may-
just wish now that, because they made us put them up so high,
Yeah.
I wish they were just a little bigger.
Yeah, I
Now they
agree.
look like a postage stamp.
They have to be 7 foot off the roadway, and it does make them look small, but they are up.
They look very nice.
They look good.
And it took a year, but almost a year, but it's been done. The next thing that we have, I think a meeting scheduled June 3rd to talk about what comes down of the old signs. So that's
That'll really clean it up too,
Yeah.
when some of the old little ones come down.
so. that's-
I'll
that's-
meet John.
Okay, the listing of St. Genevieve on visitmo.com, we have about a 30% increase over last year. Some recent ones that went on, the community center's on now, Only Child Originals, Arts and Antiques just got on. Farmers Market went up, it's not been approved yet, but it's in, working with Kelly for Show Me Shop, and I'm doing one for Galleria St. John. June the 7th is the deadline to get into next year's, the
Fiscal year
book.
14.
And I know you sent it out. I sent it to, we had a kind of a target list of people, anybody that I had an email address from. I sent that back out to them because there's still probably 15 or 20 that it would behoove us to get onto that visitmo.com, and we're getting.
And yeah, and I had also sent that out to our list of all of the merchants and B&Bs and restaurants. We did a global.
Okay, can you kind of update us on the ongoing maintenance and conversion of the website?
Yes, we have options that are being pursued. The original bids that were sent were way beyond what we have. I have been looking at some technology grants options, but it would be a year before we would get anything like that, and we need to do something before then. So I have, and Martin and I have been working with a couple of businesses who have sent something a little bit more within our budget. One is not overly impressive. We just received one today. I haven't had the opportunity to really delve into it yet and see what they have to offer, but you know, the prices are coming in a little bit more realistic, and they have a company with staff as opposed to, you know, a one or two man team, which is what we've been kind of trying to avoid. So we do have options that are being pursued, and fortunately these options are back within our budget range of what we have available.
So you have to go back out for bid again, or?
Not that from what I understand, no, because we are still accepting bids.
Okay.
And there's one other business that I'm going to follow up. I received a letter from today. So I'm going to follow up with them tomorrow and send a scope of work.
Okay. Is that for conversion or just ongoing maintenance?
It's for all.
Okay.
For now, I believe we are month to month with Chuck. But if we can find someone, you know, if we can go, we were looking at the possibility of having them take over the ongoing maintenance while we do the conversion. So that way we can, you know, kind of get that moving in a financially reasonable direction.
Okay. The 2013 conversion study,
Yes.
is that bid out?
It will be. Let me tell you what happened. After our last meeting, I was speaking with Deanne McKinney, who is the research woman of the world in tourism, and she works for the state. And she had given me some names. She had talked about maybe using Jefferson College, Park Hills College over in there. They apparently
Memory?
have, that might be it.
That's
I
the
have
one.
it written down. But she had said they do this really well. And then in addition, I was told about a webinar that's going to be held tomorrow that I'm going to do. And it's called Tourism Research on a Shoestring Budget. And it's being hosted by the Tour and Travel Research Association. And Deanne had suggested maybe you want to wait, do this, and see if there are other ways that you can have these conversions or have these other studies and other options available when you are dealing with a shoestring budget. So I'm going to take that, or I'm going to do the webinar tomorrow and see how that fits in, and then contact the groups, and then we'll have that out for bid.
Still feasible to do it within this, because it's in
Yes.
the budget for this
Yes.
year?
Yes. It will be done within this budget year.
Okay.
And at this point, we might be able to have it where it is the fiscal year 13 advertisers, and we can use that as a part of our final report that we send to the state in December.
Okay. Visitor guide reprint, Kelly, I guess what it still,
We're probably going to get ready to go to print in early June.
okay,
I was going through the guide, and there's a lot of businesses that are no longer, there's a lot of changes that are being, you know, that needs to be done now.
I noticed, like, if the Old Brick's got a case of the old ones, and it's probably 2/3 full, I wonder how many cases are sitting around. Are we
don't
just gonna
know.
go for reprint?
I
because
hated,
of the-
yeah, I hated to do it with that when we still had all those, because I still hand those out on a daily basis to people. At least it gets them around town. But
There have been a lot of changes.
there's a lot that's,
Okay.
needs to change in
And just the
there.
art galleries in particular
Yes.
have really,
Yeah. So I was talking to Jan today, actually, and, you know, I think we're going to try to shoot for the first part of June to
Okay.
go ahead and go to print with that.
Go final review and...
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Any other old business? Beth, anything, upcoming events for,
Well, I'm putting together the next one, which would be for June. And again, I go off the events calendar that's on Visit St. John. And it looks like I'm going to be able to fit June and July on
one?
one thing, which is odd because sometimes I have trouble fitting 1 month on it. But one thing I did notice is, I think it was you brought me the flyer for, you said La Vieja?
The VA?
VA, which was not on the events calendar, so I need to add that in there. And then for the chamber music series, what did I do? I don't think I have those listed individually. I think it says Fridays throughout, you know, this date to this date, see this website.
Also talked to Dina about 4th of July, I don't know, Freedom.
freedom
Is on there.
celebration. I don't, it might be, I think Chuck might have put that on
Yeah,
there.
I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure
And
because,
then also July, we have the county fair.
yeah,
Okay.
We'll have Moonlight Madness too. We've got a date for that.
for which one? Kelly?
For Moonlight Madness for the
Okay,
merchants, so
okay.
we'll put that on there.
What's the date for that?
The 18th,
Of July?
yes.
Okay. So this might make it, I might be able to do one for June, one for July. I'm off work tomorrow, so I'll finish this all up tomorrow and send it out and add everything here.
In the evening.
Okay.
Did you have that thing for June 1st for the Down syndrome?
Should
Send
that
you-
be, on there?
That's one of the ones that I was kind of wondering as well. if
Because
that
then
were-
are we gonna end up putting every benefit for everything? Because there's a lot of benefits for individuals or for organizations, so I don't know what to do about those.
Yeah, I didn't know if that qualified as like a church fair. I mean, I realize it's not a church that's hosting it, but, you know, that was kind of the.
And I think it's the same, you know, the guidelines for the calendar, I just look
So
at
it,
that.
when I looked at the events calendar, it wasn't on there. So is it on there?
I don't know, did Chip even submit something to you?
He didn't, he brought flyers, I had the flyers out. Let me see, I'll check my calendar. I don't think I put it on there, because you know, that's kind of what I was sitting at.
Well, and is that considered like a tourism item that would bring people back to town?
Well, I mean, they have a tractor parade.
Yeah.
They got the Ram cheerleaders. Hey,
We have a tractor parade almost every day.
Of the country, I love tractor parades.
Oh, you know, it is on there.
I like them best when they're steam tractors.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I can put it on there, that's no big deal, but I just,
I mean, if we have people staying in town at the bed and breakfasts, and it's like they don't know what's going on, if they see that,
and that
they
can be on
might
there.
be,
Okay.
it might
That's
be
true.
something interesting.
Okay, so I should be able to split that up, to have one for June and then do a separate one for July then with all these other things, because I didn't know about Moonlight Madness.
I think Chuck put this on, because there's
Yeah, yeah.
HTML code on there.
Okay.
HTML code.
All right, so I'll send that
Okay,
out
good.
tomorrow.
The other thing, I mentioned that the old sign is now a new sign, and that is back in 1956, the State Historical Society and MoDOT put together histories for every county. And it used to be down on Highway 61, there was a little picnic area by one of the bluffs, and it got moved up to the Lions Club Park, and it was pretty well damaged. They got a grant from the Community Foundation and also contributed some money. It cost a little bit more than their original estimate, and it's now back in place. They have their memorial bricks underneath it. I already saw people taking pictures today, visitors.
It's really good.
It's on the television commercial.
It's in the same company that made it originally.
Restored it, right?
Restored it,
Yeah,
so-
well, that's
The
great.
The Lions Club did a nice job. It's very prominent there. I think it'll add to our tourism.
definitely, it's fantastic.
The
And
Lions did a
it's
really
like
great job on that.
Yeah.
Kudos to them.
The
Looks
film
good.
crew saw that, and they were like, oh, we gotta get this. And I was like, okay. And that's the first thing you see on that television commercial, is that new sign.
Okay, any other new business? Any committee reports, electronic media? I know Dean isn't here. I still think we need to start that review of the lean and mean thing. We haven't done any of that yet.
Yeah, we definitely need to sit down and do that, especially, getting close to
Especially,
conversion of the
yeah.
website.
Yep. Print media, I think we're talking mostly about the visitor guide. Tourism development, there was a survey or a questionnaire I gave out to everybody. I'm still missing 2 of those, and I'd like to get your input, and then I'm gonna coalesce those all into one and give it back to you so that we can talk about it at a work session.
Did you find one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of gets into the tourism development part of it, because it really kind of talks about what things we should be emphasizing as a tourism advisory committee. The last part is resource, and that was a committee that really was kind of looking at the budget kind of thing last year. And we kind of need to reformulate that because I think it was Jack and Joe.
Joe and me.
And Mike, and you're the
And
only.
Jack was just our chairman.
Yeah, and I think we need to get Tom involved in that. That would be a good thing for him to be in those discussions, and
I think it would be great.
and I'll just figure out one other person to name to that. Kathy might be a good one from her past city experience too. So.
I
guess
nominate Kathy.
All in favor?
Is that how it works?
Okay.
Sorry.
Is there any other business to bring forth before the advisory council? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
You're a motion person tonight.
I'll second. Copy paste, Carla.
Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.